I don't always wake up at 3:30 in the morning, but when I do, this is what my day looks like. Stay thirsty, my friends. Welcome back to Aviator Inspirations, where I take away the mystery from the aviation industry. So if you're new here, consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my weekly videos. Today I'm going to give you a glimpse of what a day of a regional airline pilot actually looks like and what goes on behind that flight deck door. My mornings usually start at 3:30 in the morning for a 6 a.m. departure time. We show up at the airport 1 hour before departure time, or 5 a.m., which means a 4:40 a.m. shuttle pickup time. And that just gives me a little bit over an hour to get ready in the morning if I wake up at 3:30. Some people are able to jump out of bed with 15 to 20 minutes to get ready, but personally I like to take an hour, have a shower, wake up, and have a nice cup of coffee. Once we get to the aircraft, the first officer does the walk around and make sure there's no obvious external damage that we can see. While the first officer is doing that, the captain is doing the originating flow, making sure all the switches are in their correct positions and all the systems are operating correctly. If anything is malfunctioning, this is the time we can call maintenance and get it fixed right away. This is why we show up 1 hour before departure time, so we can take care of any of these little snags that come up. Once the first officer returns to the flight deck, we load the flight plan into the flight management system. Check the weather.
Edmonton International, information Victor, weather at 2100 Zulu, wind 290 at 5.
Load the departure. And do all the applicable checklists. This takes a little bit of time, usually 15 to 20 minutes. Again, that's why we show up to the aircraft early, to make sure everything is in tip-top shape. If we do find any malfunctions, we are able to call maintenance right away and hopefully get those resolved. Our goal is to avoid any delays starting that early in the morning, because throughout the day they tend to snowball, and that's why you'll find at the end of the day an aircraft is delayed by 2 to 3 hours because of the cumulative delays throughout the day that it has experienced. Here's a pro tip. To avoid lengthy delays in your travel plans, try to book flights early in the morning. That way, the delays have not yet occurred and you have the best probability to get to your destination on time. Once we get all the guests loaded and get all the final numbers for the bag count, we close up the door and push back. During taxi, the first officer is responsible for doing all the communication on the ground and writing down taxi clearances. The captain does all the taxiing because on his side is the tiller, which controls the nose of the aircraft. So during this time, both pilots are vigilant to make sure we're going in the right direction. Toronto, for example, has several frequency changes that we have to make before we get to the takeoff. We start by talking to clearance. They're the ones that allow us to leave the airport. Then we move on to the apron to get permission to push back. Once we push back, we switch over to ground to get instructions for our taxi. And finally, when we get to the runway of departure, we switch over to tower. They're the ones that clear us for takeoff and switch us over to departure. Then comes the takeoff. All systems online, ready for takeoff. Both pilots are extremely vigilant during this critical phase of flight, because any malfunction that happens or lights that come on during the takeoff roll, we have the opportunity to reject the takeoff and safely still stop on the runway. The captain and first officer take turns flying the airplane. They become the pilot flying and the pilot monitoring, where the pilot flying does all the flying, obviously, and the pilot monitoring talks on the radio, programs the flight management system, and does all the checklists. During climb out, we are busy transitioning from the control tower to center, and they are vectoring us to get us going en route. Below 10,000 feet, we have a sterile flight deck, where only conversations and activities related to the operation of the aircraft are allowed. Once we level off and cruise, then we have a moment to relax, have a snack, enjoy the view, and maybe have a cup of coffee. Then we start getting ready for our approach. During cruise, we have the opportunity to check the weather, get the arrival loaded into the flight management system, set up for the approach, get the landing numbers, and do all the briefings. In the approach phase, we are starting to do things in the reverse order than we did in the climb out phase, where we are starting to get passed from center control to arrival, then off to tower. As we descend through 10,000 feet, we are again both focused on the approach, maintaining speed control, changing radio frequencies, and maintaining a sterile flight deck. Once we land, the pilot flying and pilot monitoring duties are over, and we revert back to the captain and first officer duties, where the captain steers the aircraft and the first officer talks on the radios and writes down all the taxi instructions. Once we taxi in, we unload all the guests and bags, get a new flight plan from dispatch, and repeat the process all over again. Our turnaround times are usually 30 to 45 minutes, and we do anywhere from 3 to 5 legs a day in an 8 to 12 hour duty day. So this is a typical day of a regional airline pilot, and it's a lot different than what people think we actually do. The whole perception of pilots on Instagram and social media paint this vibrant and exciting and beautiful lifestyle, and that does exist, but those are small glimpses of what our actual day looks like. In reality, we are quite busy, work long hours, and are away from our family 16 to 19 days a month. But what gets us through it is the excitement of flying an aircraft and getting to experience those sights and destinations that nobody else gets to see. That keeps the job exciting, fun, and dynamic. If you would like to join me on my adventures, follow me on Instagram, where I share all these unique perspectives that I get to experience from the air. If you enjoyed learning on this channel about aviation, consider smashing that subscribe button. Fly safe, everyone, and I'll see you next week.